Hi, I'm Ethan Muckelbauer, and I'm here with Nicholas Briggs. And today we're going to talk about crafting an effective VA personal statement. So, first, Nick is going to cover the rules, and then I'll talk about some tips on how to craft the most effective statement. For reference, VA Form 21 10210 is for a personal statement, and it's also called a statement in support of a claim. This is a written personal narrative that you submit that details your disability and its impact on your life. So, Nick, what is the value of a VA personal statement?
So the goal of a personal statement is to accomplish four main things. First, you're providing your personal account of the conditions that you're claiming and their impact, which we'll get into later in terms of how they affect you on a daily basis. There's also supplementing medical evidence and your service records, because not all of the information contained in those might reflect exactly what happens, depending on what the incident is or what you're describing. And hand in hand with that, they offer context and details that aren't captured in official documents. At the end of the day, a document's only going to describe, you know, we'll get there. And finally, it will help the VA to understand your unique situation, because the way that your conditions affect you is going to be different from how it affects other people.
Yeah, so these can be really valuable with helping VA assess your claim. So, what is some important information that veterans should include in their personal statements?
So specifically regarding service connection, because I think that's when it's often most helpful to provide these statements, at least initially, you want to provide some of the more basic details, including the name of the disability that you're claiming, when you first experienced those symptoms, either in service or perhaps after service if you're claiming secondary service connection. You want to be specific about the details about the incident or onset that caused the condition in the first place. You also want to provide VA with any evidence of your current medical treatment in terms of any specific appointments, specific doctors, or specific medications you might be taking. And then you want to get into how that condition impacts your daily life, talking about something as simple as your ability to work, your ability to complete basic household chores or other personal tasks, activities of daily living, as well as how it might affect your relationships with your family and friends.
Yeah, great. So, Nick, can only veterans write these personal statements?
No, so although VA likes to capture the form as a personal statement, as like their naming convention, this is really about a personal statement coming from anyone who might have relevant information. At the end of the day, the veteran might be the one who's most capable about describing a specific condition or specific event, but anybody who was there, who witnessed the event, who or experienced it in some way, they're competent to provide that testimony as well. So anyone can technically file a personal statement with based off of the events that happened. So we often see personal statements from spouses, other family members, or friends in the context of severity statements if a veteran's trying to get an increased rating. In the case of TDIU, you might want to get a statement from your employer or your coworkers talking a bit about how your condition impacts your ability to work. But the most important thing, regardless of who's providing the statement, is explaining why this person can be trusted to talk about the veteran's circumstances. And that's often going to come through summarizing their relationship with the veteran, how long they've known them, why they're uniquely qualified to provide the testimony that they're providing. So with that in mind, let's talk a bit about how to write an effective VA personal statement. Ethan, can you tell us a bit about how these statements should be structured?
Yeah, so you'll want to start with a detailed introduction of your military service. This would include the dates that you served, any unit information, and also the locations of any overseas service that might be relevant to your claim. Then you'll want to provide a detailed account of the event or onset of the disability. So, one of the requirements for service connection is that you suffered some injury or incident in service, and you want to be really specific in describing what that was. You'll also want to describe any treatment that you received after that incident, or if you didn't seek treatment, provide an explanation for why that was, as well as the response from the military and any ongoing symptoms. You'll also want to describe the impact of your disability on your daily life. So this could include, like Nick mentioned, how it affects your ability to work or your daily functioning. You can include some supporting testimonies from family, friends, or colleagues who can support or corroborate anything you reported that happened to you during or after service. And then you'll conclude with a summary and also request that VA support you in developing your claim.
Great, thanks, Ethan. Now, can you tell us a bit about some common mistakes that we often see when we review previously submitted personal statements from veterans?
Sure. One of the main ones is submitting an unsubstantiated medical claim or self diagnosis. It's important to know that for diagnoses or certain conditions, VA does require these come from a medical professional. So, unless you yourself have a medical background, it's important that you don't try and diagnose yourself, but focus on what you experienced and things that are in your direct knowledge. You also don't want to underplay your symptoms. A lot of veterans tend to minimize their symptoms or try to dismiss them, but it's really important that you give VA a full and accurate report of how they affect your life and the true severity that is occurring in your day to day life. You'll want to avoid any unprofessional language or jargon, as well as any complaints about the VA process. We understand that it can be frustrating to submit this information or deal with the VA claims process, but it's important to remain professional to avoid any swearing or any really dense or insulting language, and also avoid complaining about the actual claims process because the statement is going to VA themselves. You'll also want to avoid any irrelevant personal history, any details that don't pertain to your service, the incident that you suffered in service, or the development of your disability is just going to add length to the statement and not give VA information about processing your claim. Lastly, you'll want to avoid any graphic or inappropriate details about your condition or avoid any exaggerations or providing false information. It's really important that you are direct, clear, and accurate in what you're telling VA about your disability and what happened to you in service.
And I think that last point is key because it's important to keep in mind that when VA reviews a lay statement or a personal statement, they're not only reviewing the contents of the four corners of the statement itself, they're going to be comparing it to other information that's already in the file. So you want to make sure that anything new that you're reporting is consistent with what you've already reported to make sure that VA gives it the proper credit the new statement deserves. Cool. And then just to conclude, a personal lay statement is a way to support your claim, and it's often easily overlooked because VA tends to prioritize medical and service records, but they need to give lay statements and personal statements the same credit as long as they're, again, like we talked about, open, honest, and fully detailed. So just make sure to be fully accurate, detail exactly how your conditions affect your daily life, and then from there, just get that statement submitted to VA so that they can work on it and review it as a part of your claim. If you have any additional questions or would like more information about personal and lay statements, please feel free to visit our YouTube, TikTok, or our blog. Thank you and take care.